the Brady Bunch?
Yeah,
You're
we're
the
like the Brady bunch of cats.
cats. There's the show title. Hey everybody, your buddy Basil here, and you are listening to the Joyspiracy Theory. Thanks for tuning in again, and I apologize for that accent. Yeesh. Anyways, we got a great interview today. Got a chance to sit down and talk with Kaitlyn. She's from Massachusetts, which I found out is in New England. Yep, we finally did it. Anyways, we talk about a lot of funny stuff, a lot of not so funny stuff, but overall, just a really awesome conversation that I think you guys are going to get a lot out of. Like you heard in the intro, we talk about the Brady Bunch of cats, relationships with God and with food, and we also talk a little bit about Christmas. We talked pretty close to Christmas, actually. I think the day after, a couple days after. You know, she's one of those peeps who doesn't celebrate the Christmas. Yeah, that's right. Your Facebook may be flooded with stories of how Christmas is pagan and how you're not supposed to celebrate it. Well, she is holding fast to that. And we'll talk about why. We'll hear why. Don't worry, it's not going to be as exhausting as your Facebook feed. It's actually quite nice. Anyways, before we get started here, just a couple of points of the housekeeping. Everybody loves the housekeeping. If you haven't done it yet, go over to facebook.com/thejoyspiracy theory and like the page there. You can get all the updates and the good stuff. Patreon.com/thejoyspiracy theory if you are feeling led to support this podcast. Keep it going. Financially, you can do that there. Pledge a buck. It's all good. It's all good. I understand it's the beginning of the new year. Taxes and stuff. I don't know. Taxes are hard, but you can totally do that. And if you haven't yet, head over to iTunes and leave a rating and a review. A bunch of you have not done that yet, and I'm just waiting for some good ones to get posted so I can read them here on the air. Go to iTunes, leave a rating and a review, and maybe you'll hear it here on the show. If you want to be on the show, go ahead and send me an email at thejoyspiracytheory@gmail.com. Super easy, super fun. You're going to want to do it. And for those of you who have emailed me, I will get back to you. Okay, anyways, let's get on with the show here. Again, this is a good one. Listen up. Prepare yourselves. Okay, let's go.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. I am fantastic. How are you?
Good. We finally did it. We worked out the technical kinks. The gremlins have been banished to the abyss. And we're on. Thank you so much for jumping on with me, Kaitlyn.
No problem.
Before we get started, what are you grateful for today?
Well, last time I checked where I am, it is about 15 degrees outside.
Oh.
So I am thankful that I am in a nice warm house and I'm not outside in the cold.
Yeah. Do you live at the North Pole? What's your deal?
No, it feels like that sometimes. I live in Massachusetts.
Okay. That's cold there. I've heard.
Yeah.
So you're confirming that. Very
yes,
cool.
Yes, you've heard correctly.
I am now looking up a map of the United States. Massachusetts map. So I can figure out exactly where that is. Because as we all know, oh yeah, it's over there on the east side.
Yeah, up in New England.
Yeah. New England. Finally a real New Englander.
Yes, not from Texas.
No, not from Texas, and not from not New England, which is Maryland. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I'm from real New England.
Yeah, apparently, yeah, okay. Now, was it the 13 colonies that are New England? Is that where it came from? Were you like one of the first one of those things or what? Let's do our quick history lesson.
My understanding is that the 13 colonies and New England are two separate things.
Oh, gosh.
That's my understanding. I could be wrong. I'm not like super great with early American history, but
Yeah.
my understanding is that New England is Rhode Island, Maine, Massachusetts, New York. I think that's it. I could be wrong.
I just Googled why is it called New England. We're going to clear this up once and for all. End the month-long debate here on the Joyspiracy Theory. Wikipedia says, on May 19th, 1643, the colonies of Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth, New Haven, and Connecticut.
In Connecticut. I miss Connecticut.
Joined together in a loose compact called the New England Confederation. Officially, the United Colonies of New England. The New England colonies were settled primarily by farmers who became relatively self-sufficient. All right. Good job, New England and farmers. We figured it out. Okay, well, that's cool. It gets cold over there. All right. We are recording shortly after Christmas, the wonderful pagan holiday of Christmas, co-opted by the Christian community. How was your Christmas time?
My Christmas time was good. I don't personally celebrate Christmas because of that reason, but
she's one of those.
Yeah.
We found one.
But no, I had a good December 25th. I went to go see Star Wars.
So do you like do anything for December 25th, or do you specifically do anti-Christmas? I mean, you saw Star Wars. That's pretty Christmassy nowadays.
I don't do anything special on that day for Christmas.
Okay.
Usually I go with my boyfriend and his family. We usually actually, the tradition for the last few years has been to go see Star Wars on Christmas.
Yeah. No, I've pretty much been doing the same thing as far as the Star Wars goes. That's interesting. You know, it's a topical conversation. We don't usually have very topical conversations on this podcast. But, you know, when did you stop celebrating Christmas? In its traditional form.
In its traditional form, I would say maybe 7 years ago.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah,
That's even before all the Facebook hype.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years ago. No, I'd say less than that. I started questioning things about 7 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I stopped celebrating Christmas maybe five years ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just, you start coming to the truth. You start asking questions, and I just, I don't know, I came to a point where I was just trying to understand, what is the fundamental truth? What is, you have the world's truth, and then there's one true truth. And I just was after that, and, just asking questions. And, I grew up going to a Protestant church, and they tell you, I'm sorry, I'm like really nervous.
No, that's okay.
Can you cut that whole part out and just let me like gain my thoughts?
Oh yeah, sure. I'm totally going to do that. I'm totally going to put all that extra work in.
I'm sorry.
No, there's no way. Here, first, before we get into all the heavy stuff, okay? So hold on. Now, I can cut that out if you'd really like, but it's okay. I'm going to leave it in because it's charming.
Oh, no,
it's
no,
charming.
No.
You're so charming.
No. Oh, God, no.
It's okay. It's all good.
You gave me your word.
No. Everybody here knows that I don't edit things. No, I do. I mean, if you send me just begging me in an email afterwards, I will edit it. But you have to remind me because I definitely will forget.
What if I fake cry?
Are you kidding me? That's what I live for. That'll get the download numbers up, baby. So I can start sponsorships on the show. Okay, no. So here's
if
my
you really
question.
want me to, I'm sorry.
No, we will talk about Christmas. Okay, we will talk.
Okay.
We will get into that because yes, historically wasn't originally a Christian holiday. In fact, it was banished from American culture for a while, because Christmas was basically just a time to get wasted and then go to people's house. That's what that song "Here We Come a Wassailing" is people
So
get
I've heard.
blasted and go to people's house and ask for booze. And if you didn't have booze, they would literally come into your house and like wreck it. So it was banned. And then it got turned into this wonderful thing that it is today. No, but yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Everybody, I mean, at this point, if you're not aware that Christmas like isn't actually Jesus's birthday and isn't actually originally a Christian holiday, you're just like not paying attention on purpose, because we all know that. But the argument now is, people just do it and still use it to celebrate either religious consumerism or use it to celebrate the birth of the Christ child. But there are a few radicals, I would call you, that actually act upon this information and don't celebrate it. So that's very interesting to me.
Yeah, you mentioned the consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
That for me is a big part of it,
Yeah.
because I actually worked in retail for 5 years.
That's
so
fun.
I've seen the ugliest side of the Christmas hype, and just everyone always says it's about the family. It's about it's the Christmas spirit. You do this on Christmas. You take care of each other. But just seeing the other side of it and just seeing how it really is just all about stuff. It's all about stuff.
Right.
And people say, oh, do this, do that in the Christmas spirit. If you need a specific day to do the right thing, it's not your true spirit. It's
sure. Well,
it's not the right reason to.
It's an excuse to be good to other people, which unfortunately a lot of people need nowadays. But here's my question for you. Do you do anything to replace Christmas? Like maybe not even in December? Do you do, the prevailing theory that Christ was born sometime in September or something like that? Do you do like a little birthday party for Jesus?
No, well, I've been celebrating Sukkot.
Okay.
That's
a Jewish feast, right?
It's a biblical feast. The Bible talks about it being one of God's feasts.
Uh-huh.
And I've been celebrating it with my boyfriend's family. They all keep the biblical feast, and he's the one that actually opened the door. God used him as a gateway to introduce himself to me. I was kind of agnostic before I met him.
Uh-huh.
And I've just been walking it out with him, and we've been learning together, and I grew up in a Protestant church being told all these things, and these things in the Bible that I was told were there, and I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
No, that's okay. You're doing great. No, but you're right. You're explaining to me when you start to wake up to what the Bible really says and talks about and teaches, rather than sort of the established milieu of modern Christianity.
Yeah, and I'm very new to waking up to a lot of things. I just recently, a few years ago, started questioning, the big picture. What is going on in the world? Who is God? Who is Jesus? What is the one fundamental truth? And so I'm still learning, and I'm still understanding. Like even the things, like I can sit here and tell you, I believe this, and in a couple years, my understanding of that specific topic could change just through experiences and through learning and through studying. And so I'm always open to my views and my beliefs being changed, because I believe it's a learning process.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely. And that's good. And, the fact that, it sounds like your boyfriend had a big hand in this, which was, acting on the the knowledge of Christmas not necessarily being what we are told it is. It's so funny because modern Christmas is so young. It's not even like 200 years old. It's less than
Yeah.
that. And we think it's like the celebration that we have is, a centuries old celebration, which it absolutely is not. But actually having the strength to act on those convictions when you could be getting all the fruitcake and the stocking candy.
And just seeing the parallels with all the other false religions, like the virgin birth. Like, have you ever seen the Zeitgeist documentary where it talks about they try to basically debunk the Jesus story by comparing it to other religions, other world religions?
Right.
It's a lot of those things, like the three wise men in the Bible. Where does it say there were three wise men?
Yeah, right.
It says there were wise men, but where does it say there were three? And it's just a lot of these ideas that we don't even really know where they came from, but it's not in the word, and just questioning and dissecting and just trying to understand for myself and not take any other person's word to heart, because you could tell me this is what the Bible says, this is how it is, and unless I go and seek it for myself, I'm not going to understand it.
Right, exactly. Well, and as I've mentioned many times on the show, once you actually start reading it for yourself, you'll find that even a lot of the most common, as you've mentioned, Protestant theological traditions aren't actually necessarily based on anything firm in the Bible. They've just sort of developed over centuries, and people take them for granted.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed you were talking, you mentioned that you used to go to a Protestant church, and usually people don't say that they've went to a Protestant church unless they are no longer going to a Protestant church.
Yeah. Well, my mother was raised Catholic.
Uh-huh.
Her father was from Portugal. Most of the people who live in this area are either Portuguese or from Portuguese descent.
Okay.
And so therefore most of them are Catholic, because that's the major religion of Portugal.
What you do over there.
Yeah, it's just what you do over there. Uh-huh. And my mom, growing up, basically in the Catholic Church, she didn't like a lot of the things that they believed and taught.
Mm-hmm.
So when she had myself and my sister, she wanted us to be able to experience going to church, but she didn't want us to go to a Catholic church. So she took us to a Protestant church, which is basically the sister of the Catholic Church. Very, very similar. They don't recognize saints. They don't recognize the Pope, I don't believe. But we would go there, and it was mainly just a Christmas and Easter type of church attendance. I went to Sunday school every once in a while, so I got introduced to some of the very topical things that you learn, like the kid version of Noah's Ark and the kid version of the resurrection, and that was basically the extent of my biblical education at the time.
Right. So real quick, so when you say Protestant being the sister of Catholicism, I'm assuming you went to like a Lutheran church, like still kind of a high church type thing, because Protestantism pretty much encompasses every Christian faith that's not Catholicism, but things like the Lutheran Church and some Anglicans and things like that are very similar and closer to the Roman Catholic Church. Is something like that?
They were a non-denominational church.
All right.
They were under the United Church of Christ.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And just from going to church for family members that have passed away, going to Catholic churches, I just saw a lot of parallels, a lot of similar things. They'd say a lot of the same things, and
Yeah,
It was
certainly.
very, very similar.
Well, I only pick at it because most when you say Protestant church, most of the people who listen to this show just call it church.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. No, I'm enjoying this. I think you've got a very interesting perspective on this. So please continue.
Well, I do not attend this church anymore, although I do have a really good relationship with the pastor, the reverend. I think that's what they call him there, and she is a woman, and I do have a really good relationship with her.
This is sounding pretty Lutheran to me.
Yeah.
No, okay, very cool.
I've known her pretty much my entire life, and I was confirmed in that church, and she did my confirmation, and I ended up 2 years ago. I did a missions trip to Costa Rica, and she let me stand up and kind of speak and just talk about that and ask for donations. And a lot of people at that church made donations to help fund my trip, even though it was not a trip through that church. So I was really appreciative of that. And
so you got a little chance to get up in front of a crowd.
Yeah, not my favorite thing to do, but
You don't say. So okay, so you had a good you still have a good relationship with your reverend there. Do you attend any church now?
Right now we just it's my boyfriend, his family, and a couple other families in the area. We just meet up for a little home group, and we do a study every week, and we do worship together, and we just read the word.
That's awesome. Going back to the early days.
It's nice because we have some good conversations, and it's interesting.
Cool. Now, how old are you? Let me guess. And then I'll let you tell me. And I promise you I'm not looking at your Facebook.
I think I'm probably the youngest person you've ever had on your show.
Well, that would make you pretty young.
If not one of the youngest.
I was going to say like 22 tops.
22 tops? Oh,
yeah.
Man. I don't know how to feel about that.
Okay. Well, now you're making me second guess myself. You're really putting the fear of God in me now that I've gotten it wrong. 18. You're 18 years old.
No, I'm older.
You're 7 years old. You're a tiny little baby.
You figured it out.
Okay, no, you can tell me I failed.
I just turned 25 3 weeks
okay.
ago.
Yeah, there you go.
But I feel like you always have like 30-somethings on here. So
Hey, we got the whole range. I did interview a 21-year-old, but that episode never made it to air. So you may be the youngest person so far. So congratulations.
Thank you. I'm honored. Do I get a plaque?
You just get a big check.
Awesome.
And a box full of cash.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I will gladly accept that.
So you're 25 years old. You got your cool little home group. How old's your boyfriend? Around the same age, or is he 37?
He is 6 months older than me.
Oh, an older man.
Yeah.
Oh, I see how it is. Okay. All right. Very cool. How long you guys been together?
We have been off and on since I was 18, since just before I turned 18. A lot of different things that came into play. He went off to college, and I had some things that I was dealing with, and just things that needed to be worked out. And
sure. Well, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. So if you want to get into it.
Well, I mean, as long as we're here, what's the interesting story? That's what we're here for. Might as well just go for it. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Okay, go. That was your
cue.
You
want it right now? I thought you meant later.
Cue.
I thought you meant later.
Well, I mean, unless you have something more important to talk about.
Yeah, I was gonna go have my bottle because I'm 7. 7-year-olds don't even have bottles, but
Well,
anyways.
let's hope they don't, but you never know. It is 2017 for a few more days. So,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
so you had a complicated off and on relationship with your boyfriend. He's the one who got you out of Christmas. He's got the family with the home group. He sounds like kind of one of those strange people.
Yeah, he is.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay, so when I was 17, just about to turn 18,
Mm-hmm.
I was spending some time with a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and this friend and mine, we were walking around the neighborhood, my local neighborhood, and we walked by this house, and he said, my friend Liz lives in that house. And I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, cool, your friend lives there, that's nice. And later on that evening, we walked to the next town over to a grocery store that had just opened up not too long ago. And this was my first time ever going to this grocery store. It was brand new, so there's tons of people.
That's
And
exciting.
yeah, it was a Friday night. I can tell you the exact day. It was
So exciting.
November 5th, 2010.
Wow, this
And
must
it
have
was a
been
Friday.
Fantastic grocery store.
And I went into the grocery store, and we were walking around, and my friend saw his friend Liz. So we walked over, and he's introducing me to his friend Liz and his 2 brothers. And one of her 2 brothers is my current boyfriend. And when I saw him, it was like, I did not know who God was at the time, but it was like the Spirit of God was speaking to me and told me, this is the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And I stand by that to this day. I firmly believe that was God speaking to my spirit. And so anyways, we talked and we exchanged Facebooks, and we started hanging out. I started hanging out with his family. And sorry, I'm just trying to recall everything correctly because it was so long ago. So if I pause in between, just bear with me.
That's
But
okay.
we just started getting to know each other over time, and his family, they were all Christian. They had a relationship with God. I didn't. My family didn't. I didn't grow up in that. So I was just exposed to it over the next couple of months.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I was, a crazy 18-year-old, had no relationship with God, had no concept of, what it meant to be a good, godly woman. I was kind of a big hot mess, and we ended up breaking up just because of, differences. And he went off to college, and we didn't speak for a couple years. And then he ended up coming back from college, and we started talking again, and it was like nothing ever changed. It was like we still it's like we were still best friends like we were 2 years ago. And during that time when he was away at school, I started questioning a lot of things. I started questioning the way the world worked. I started questioning who's running everything. You start looking into like the Illuminati and all the people at the top of the food chain that control everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to seek after God more. And when we started talking again, we got back together, but it still wasn't the right time because I had some issues with emotional health and emotional intelligence. I was going through some issues with depression, anxiety, some things that I have not dealt with at the time, from my childhood that were still bothering me. So we decided together that it would be best for us to stop the relationship so I could take care of myself further and just, sort out the things that needed to be sorted out within myself.
Yeah.
But during this time, we were still inseparable. We were still best friends. He was always there for me. He's always been there for me, from the beginning. And I just kept going, like kept trying to, seek after God and understand things. And it came to a point where I was telling him, hey, I want to get back together. I'm ready to get back together. And he's always been a person who he will not move unless he feels the Spirit of God telling him to move. So this went on for about 2 years, me telling him, like, I want to get back together. I love you. I know we're supposed to be together. I've always known we're supposed to be together.
Coming on a little strong there, Kaitlyn.
Oh, I know. But anyways, in 2015, I believe, no, in the beginning of 2016, I went to Costa Rica. I did a missions trip I mentioned briefly, and I learned a lot there. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about God. But one of the big things that happened while I was down there is I went to God in my prayer time, and I said, okay, God, I know what you said to me way back when I was 18, and I believe that was you. But if this is not what you have for me, I will walk away from it, and I will go on to do whatever you want me to do. And it was in that moment of surrender and just letting go where I heard in my spirit, no, this is the person I have for you. And unbeknownst to myself, he, back in the US was praying the same thing. And he had the same revelation.
Yeah.
So we've been together since then, and we're just trying to walk it out together, trying to learn more about each other, and just go where God leads.
Well, that's awesome. That sounds like a good way to do it. Sounds like you got a good head on your shoulders, the both of you.
Yeah, he's really great. He taught me indirectly. He's taught me a lot about God, just understanding what the biblical definition of love is, how it's long-suffering, it's patient, it's kind, it is not self-seeking, mm-hmm. All those qualities. And he's displayed those throughout our relationship, even times where I did not deserve patience or long-suffering, he's displayed it. And, it talks about in the Bible how a husband is the covering for a woman, and his purpose is to be a shadow of what Jesus was, and the woman's purpose is to be a shadow of what the church is. And I look at him and I see a great example of a person who displays a lot of the same qualities that Jesus held. And it's so, indirectly, he's taught me a lot about the character of God.
Well, that's awesome. Sounds like you got a good one on the line.
Yeah, he's okay.
Well, that's cool. That's very good. And you guys, and I'm sure it sounds like you're pretty close with his family, and you see them. Does your family attend your home groups?
No, they don't. My family, unfortunately, is not very close to God. Mm. My mother does not have much of a relationship with God. My sister doesn't really have one. And, it breaks my heart because I really want them to know. And I've come to them in tears before telling them, like, if you understood the love of God and the love of Jesus, your life would never be the same. And, they just don't see it, unfortunately, or they haven't had the life experience to show them. Yeah, right. To get them there. And my father, it's the weirdest thing. He is the biggest truther you'll ever meet, but he has no understanding of God. And I've told him about things that I've, like, spiritual things that I've experienced and things that I've seen. And he kind of just looks at me like I'm crazy. And I'm just like, Dad, you know that the world is run by like 10 people, and that, the whole currency system is rigged, and that there's fluoride in the water. But, you think I'm crazy because, I've seen spiritual things, or...
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Has he heard of a little thing called Age of Deceit?
I recommended it to him, but he has ADD like myself, so we have a hard time, sitting down for long periods and focusing on things.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I've recommended it to him. I've also told him, like, check out L.A. Marzulli, check out, all these things. And
he's too busy with all the other truther videos. I mean, he's not going to run out of material.
No.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, there you go. He's at least halfway there. So, So then growing up, what was your family like? Life?
My family life has not been easy. I love my mother with all my heart. I love my father. I love my family. But we just had a lot of clashes growing up. My parents got divorced when I was 8, and a big part of growing up and becoming the person that I'm supposed to be has been learning forgiveness.
Yeah.
For things that I've experienced during my childhood. But looking back, a big thing that has helped me is just, my mother did the best she could do as a single mother with 2 kids.
Yeah.
My father did the best he could do in the situation he was in. They didn't make perfect decisions, but I believe that they love me. And, just kind of like empathizing with them,
Yeah.
And my relationship has been a lot better with the both of them. I had to forgive my father for the divorce, and then I had to forgive my mother for a lot of things that occurred during the divorce. And since I was able to do that, our relationship has improved a lot. I actually work with my mother now, so we get along a lot better.
Oh, there you go. That's fun. Yeah, it's interesting, and as you get older, it things start to make sense a little bit more, I found.
Yeah.
You start to have a little bit more of that empathy for people, even those who may have hurt you.
Yeah, and that's a big thing is, for me at least, I've had a lot of issues with forgiveness in different areas of my life, things that I experienced when I was younger, and my boyfriend's mother always says to me that you stop growing emotionally where you stop forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the truth in myself in that statement. So it's just, just constantly checking myself and constantly, working on those things and, asking God, who have I not forgiven? Help me to forgive them. Help me to release them. And there's still some things that to this day I'm still working on, but it's a process and it will come. A big thing I always look back to is, in the Bible where it says, you will be judged by how you judge others.
Yeah.
The same way that you judge, you will be judged. So, when I'm driving and somebody cuts me off, I'm like, you meanie pants. But it's like, no, I'm sure I'm not perfect either, and I probably do the same thing. So, God forgive them, God release them, and it's the same thing. Like, I'm not a perfect person. My family's not perfect. The people in my life aren't perfect. The people from my past aren't perfect. So, I just trying, forgiveness,
Yeah. Well, let's see. You're pretty young. Sounds like you are making some strides there. I can say, I think when I was 25, I was, I wouldn't say I was too far off. I like to think that I also got an early start on emotional intelligence, but it sounds like you're pretty far along. So that's great to hear.
It honestly depends on the day. It's I really liked all the episodes you had with Mike Davis.
Oh,
because he talks a lot about like the control in your emotion, how you cannot make me feel a certain way, but I can allow you to make me feel a certain way. But ultimately, I am responsible for the way I feel, and that's something that I've been working on lately. It's just whatever happens around me is gonna happen. But I can control how I react to things.
Yeah.
And I'm not always perfect. God knows I have I have my issues and I have my moments, but it's just, that's my ultimate goal, is just to reach a point where, I more or less can just, accept the fact that, life is going to happen. I cannot control things, but I can control how I let it affect me.
That's right. What do you think the biggest obstacles to that are?
For myself or in general?
Well, you can only speak for yourself, but I'm thinking maybe some people might glean some information off of that. But as a side note, I'm going to have to get Mike Davis on just for like a whole series of podcasts, because
he's amazing.
I know. I might just have to lock that guy down and us start a podcast together, because he's the number one referenced guest on this show.
Yeah, he's great. For the biggest obstacle for myself, I would say, is just accepting that I'm not in control of everything that happens.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, because, you just want your life to look a certain way, and you just want things to be a certain way, and you just want, everything to be right. And sometimes they're not. And sometimes you have to go through a season where things are hard, or you don't get what you want. But
yeah, there is sort of a peaceful passiveness that comes with trusting Jesus, really, when you trust that God's got everything under control. And a lot of times that trust isn't like right out in front. We all like to say that we trust that God's got everything under control, but the real evidence of that is when you can go through life peacefully and passively, and not with a rock tight grip on everything.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing for me, is just the control thing. And if you want to get really heavy, I had going back to the control issue, I had issues growing up with eating disorders.
Yeah.
I was bulimic. I had a binge eating disorder. I had some other things that branched off of that, and it all came back to control. I just wanted to be in control, and I battled with that for like 13 years, and it's just, I just wanted to, be in control of how my body looked and what I put in my body, and just, it just manifested in like the self-destructive behavior. And, God delivered me from that. I'm very grateful, but going through it was really hard. That was really tough.
Yeah, there are some people in my personal life who I just learned have been and are dealing with some eating disorders.
Yeah.
And even in ways that I didn't even know really were eating disorders, and manifest in a lot of different ways. And it does seem to come from that aspect of control, because I don't know what it is. The rest of their life, more or less seems like it's going fine. And,
Mm-hmm.
they don't look like they, nobody would prescribe them an eating disorder just by looking at them, but it just kind of comes out of nowhere. But why do you think that that need for control is so strong?
I think it comes from a place, like the human part of you, the human part of me, where, you have like the spiritual side, and then you have the human side, and they're always fighting against each other. And the human side is saying one thing, and the spiritual side is saying another. And, the spiritual side says, give it all to God. God has, he has everything in his hand. He has your whole life in his hand, and he'll guide you. You just got to give it all up to him. And then you have the human side that just, it wants to control, and it wants to be able to see, where you're going to end up. and it's just,
Right.
and that's what, for me at least, is just, but it's a process, and it's working it out. And it's, through life experiences, I have grown, and I am still growing to trust God more and more. It's just, for me personally, every time I have a circumstance where I have to give God the control, and he catches me and he meets me on the other end, it just builds that trust a little more,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's really in repetition and practice that we learn to trust anybody. And it's
Yeah.
kind of the same way with God. It's interesting because theologically, we're kind of you wouldn't know this, but in Protestant churches, we're taught that trusting God is pretty much pounded into our head, and we kind of have to go for it a lot of times with no idea exactly how practically to go for it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you really only learn through experience. But when you figure out how to do it and how that feels, and the feeling when it's all out of your hands and it's in His hands, is incredibly liberating, is what it
Yeah.
is. It's this wonderful freeing feeling. And, usually things don't turn out as bad as you expect them to anyhow.
Yeah. And I found, for me personally, all the times where I've found myself in a place of complete surrender has been, the moment where God has answered me, or God has shown me what I need to do, or given me the answer that I needed. And, it's just, I find that, when I'm holding on to the fear and I'm holding on to the what if, it's when it clouds me from hearing His voice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's like any other relationship. If you're not
Yeah.
if you're not trusting the person in one way or another, you're not going to have a very open dialogue. It's
That's true.
it's one big facet of it. I knew somebody when I was in college, and her number one, like we were in class, and so it might have been like the first day of the semester or of the class or something, and we all going around and everybody was saying, well, okay, what do you want out of this semester? Like, what do you want out of this class? And she said in a very Christian fashion, I want to hear God's voice more. And this was not a theology class, and so it kind of threw everybody off a little bit. But I had a talk with them afterwards, and it really did come down to that. It's, we all want to hear God, but it starts with trusting that what you're hearing is God. It's a lot of it
Yeah.
is, being able to recognize His voice and trusting that it is God, and then acting on that. Because just like with anybody else we have a relationship with, if they're talking to you and you're either ignoring them or not listening to their advice, or straight up not listening to them while they're speaking to you, they're not going to be doing it for very long.
Oh man, you are convicting me right now.
Aha, I got you.
Yeah, I agree.
Well,
And
tell me about that. Tell me about your convictions. What's going on in your head?
my convictions right now. Okay, sorry, I keep asking that. My of course right now. What else? Just that's an issue I've been having lately. Just people I'm close to talking and not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And multiple people in my life that I have relationships with, and just it's hard because it goes back to the control thing, because you just want to be, you want to just tell them all your feelings and all your thoughts, and we don't always listen to the other side. And
yeah, we'll talk about
that's
control in conversation,
Oh my gosh,
I
yes.
make my living from being in control of the conversation. And I can tell you, it's you cannot take the podcaster's mindset into the real world. It's I like to think that it's helped my listening, but I certainly I certainly revert to dropping in because I feel like something needs to go a different way, or I just need to get a thought out or something, and it's not the best way to go. But it's interesting because this concept of being in control is pretty much diametrically opposed to the concept of listening and trusting.
Yeah, that's true. And understanding, the difference between hearing and understanding, because they're two different concepts. Like, you could sit and have a conversation with somebody and forget about it, the next minute, or you could, meditate on what they're saying and absorb it and try to gain an understanding, from their point of view. And that's more of my thing.
Yeah. You have a little bit of a hard time gaining understanding? Or at least taking a breath and intentionally trying to understand the other person?
At times. I believe I'm getting better at it because, just trying to get on the same page as people and kind of bring yourself to their level and get I'm sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought right now.
No, you're okay. It's just building dramatic tension.
Yes. Sorry, I'm having such a brain fart right now.
That's okay. And we can move on if you want. But I just think that's a rich vein that people need to, we all need a little bit of practice in listening, because really, again, going back to our relationship with God, we spend so much time in our prayer time talking. We do so much talking, and obviously there's a time for praise and there's a time for making requests, and there's time for, being supplicant and everything like that. But there's also, listening is how you get used to hearing the voice of God.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
You had a chance. Who knows how that happened, but you heard God even before you had the time to really develop a relationship.
Oh my goodness, I could tell you some stories if you want.
Please do. I like stories.
When I went down to Costa Rica,
Mm-hmm.
I always talk about when I went to Costa Rica, because that was such a defining point for me. Just being, separated from I was basically living in somebody's house on the top of a mountain with very limited internet access, very limited TV, just, kind of separated from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And we would pray for 2 hours a day in the morning. So there was a lot of time just to hear God. And when I went out there, before I went, I was praying, God, I want to experience your love for me. I want to, because I don't feel like I've ever truly felt the magnitude of your love for me, but everyone tells me that you love me, so I want to feel it. And it was while we were out there, we were having our prayer time, and I was, standing outside, and I was looking out on this beautiful landscape, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm standing there, and I feel in me, it was a thought, but it was more than a conscious thought that I formed. It was, you brought me all the way out here, 3,000 miles away, to show me that you love me. And it was just that moment, that simple thought, just I felt the love of God in a way that I've never felt before. And it was really powerful. It was so powerful, because he loves me so much that he put me on a plane. He flew me to another country just so I would see that he loves me. And ever since then, I have never doubted that God loves me. Like I might have, other areas in my life where I'm insecure, unsure, but I know that God loves me.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful for me, because that's something I've always struggled with, because, they say that, people have said to me at least, that your earthly father is what instills your understanding of your heavenly father. And I have a really good relationship with my dad now, but growing up, I did not have the best relationship with him. So it was really hard, when I'd have all these people telling me, oh, God loves you, God loves you. And I don't know what that means.
Right.
What does that mean?
Right.
What does it mean to love somebody? What does it mean? What is that father-daughter relationship? And I could not comprehend it. And I finally was able to understand it and to feel it, and I've never doubted it since,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Yeah, and that's one of those things too. Like you said about an earlier topic, sometimes there's good days and there's bad days, but when you can, I feel like when you really feel the love of God, it does become enduring. And it does be, even on days when, everything doesn't really seem as it should, it can, you come to a point where there's just that low hum, almost like if there's a loose wire on your subwoofer or something, there's a low hum of that love underneath everything.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. That it's like, in the back of your head that, that he's there and he loves you, and no matter what, he's got you, and it's comforting.
Yeah. Amen, sister. So when did you, what was your first, when you started searching for the truth in the world? Where did that start?
Where did it start?
Yeah, first of all, you said that you just kind of knew things weren't the way that they seemed. Was there anything in particular that that taught you that, or that may have hinted?
Well, when there's a few different things. It's kind of like coming to God has been like a multifaceted thing for me. It wasn't like I had like, there was one day where I was just saved. It was like a building understanding and a building relationship.
Yeah.
But
which I think is a healthy way to do it.
Yeah. Growing up, I was kind of a weird girl. I'm still kind of a weird girl, but
you don't say.
Oh, thank you. But good weird, like just kind of reserved, quiet, kind of lonely as a child. I had a hard time making friends. And but I just remember that even when I felt really lonely and I was kind of by myself, I just always felt like there was something there. There was something beyond me that was there, and I found comfort in that. And I didn't know what it was at the time. And I'm talking like 7, 8, 9, like really young. And when I was a little older, 12, 13, 14, I started to get into witchcraft and Wicca.
Ooh,
and
there we go.
Yeah, there we go. I would play with tarot cards and Ouija boards, and I would wear pentagrams and other symbols and go to, New Age fairs, and I would wear crystals and all kinds of things. And I started to see things. I started to wake up in the middle of the night and see things in my room. And there was one time that sticks out. I was about 14, and it was a school night, and I was sleeping in my room, and I woke up, and I could hear voices, and I opened my eyes, and there were these 3 dark, shadowy figures in my bedroom.
Whoa.
And they were all whispering to me, and it took a couple moments for it to register because I'm just waking up out of the sleep. But, once it hits me, I'm the only one in this room. I should not hear voices. What is going on? I stood up and I ran out of my room, and I don't know how I didn't trip and break my nose, but I ran out of the room screaming into my mother's room, and she still remembers. If I bring it up, she'll remember it. And I went to her and I was crying and I said, "Mom, they're talking to me. They're talking to me. They won't stop talking to me."
Oh, that's spooky.
And yeah,
That's
it was
a spooky thing
awful.
for Mom to hear.
It was awful, and I'll never forget how those things made me feel. I will never, ever forget it. It was the most dreadful thing I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And I slept in my mother's bed, and she said I did not move that entire night. I just clung to her. And things like that happened, and that is kind of what I saw these things, and I figured, okay, there is a dark side, so there must be more. There's a spiritual world, and it just confirmed that there was more than what we see day to day. There's it goes deeper than what we can touch and what we can feel.
Right. Well, and so you must have known that because you were practicing witchcraft, or was that kind of more of a fashion statement than anything else?
Oh my God, it was such a rebellious 13-year-old thing.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest with you. It was such a, it was just me rebelling.
Yeah.
And then I started to, see the ramifications of what I was doing.
Were you casting spells, or what were you trying to do? I'm always curious of what the practical side of that is. I always forget to ask, what exactly was the practice?
I was nothing major, just
lighting candles.
It was more, lighting candles and word spells. And it's interesting because this is the time where I was doing all these things, where I started to suffer with extreme depression and extreme anxiety. And
they got their talents.
Yeah. And it took a long time for me to shake a lot of that off. And I've had people pray over me, and there have been, instances where someone would be praying over me, and I'd be sitting there, I'd be fine 1 second, and then the next second I am screaming, and it's not me who's screaming, and I'm swearing, and I'm saying these things that I'm not consciously saying. And then the next day I feel different, and but I kept seeing these things in my room, and it stopped for a few years. And then when I was in my early 20s, I started seeing things again. And there was one night where I woke up and I saw this man standing in my room, and I was wide awake. I know I was not dreaming or hallucinating or anything, but there was a man standing there looking at me, and I looked at him, and I just said, "Nope, nope, nope." And I turned over and I went back to sleep. And the next night, he was there again. So I looked at him and I was like, okay, I got to take care of this. So I looked at him and I said, "In the name of Yeshua, you leave right now and you do not come back." And the man stood up and he walked through the wall, and I didn't see him again.
Had somebody told you to do that? How did you know to do that?
Well, just people praying over me.
Yeah, you just kind of knew that was a thing.
Yeah, people praying over me. I know there's power in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
We have the authority to cast out demons in his name.
Sure.
And I was telling my mother's friend about these things that were happening to me, and she's a Christian, and she said to me, "Kaitlyn, okay, what you need to do, you need to take some oil and you got to anoint your bedroom door." And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird, but all right, I trust you. And so I the same week I went to my bedroom and I took some coconut oil because that's all I had on hand, and I put it
the most hipster anointing to have been done.
And I took it and I put it around my door frame and I put it around my window, and I said, what did I say? This is so long ago. I said, may nothing that is not of God, something, I can't not tell you word for word what it was, but it was something along the lines of, anything that is not of God, you must leave this room right now in the name of Jesus. And ever since that, I have never seen anything since.
Well, there you go.
That was successful.
Whatever you said, it must have worked.
Yeah. And I don't feel like it's what you say, like the words.
Yeah, it's
the
not
order of the words don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it's the authority, and I'm going to claim that, even if the rest of my family does not, have the same relationship with God, I have the authority. So I'm going to, claim my living space in the name of Jesus. And
Right. Now, real quick, you said your dad was a truther. Was he always a truther? Were you like growing up with a truther dad?
I don't remember him being much of what we'd call a truther growing up. My mom said that when we were younger, he was interested in Scientology.
Oh,
I
fun.
never asked him about that. But he was just always into like the fringy stuff and asking questions, and he listens to Coast to Coast. I remember him listening to Coast to Coast a lot growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he would take me to the library and we would take out books on aliens and Bigfoot and UFOs. And there was one day I remember when I was like 10, me, him, and my sister, we made some duct tape flying saucers out of duct tape and like egg cartons or something. And we tried to make hoax pictures of flying saucers. That's one of my best childhood memories.
Man, you guys were weird.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. Just trying to create your own UFO hoax.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so you had Truth of Dad. It was around when you were a kid, and you had these supernatural experiences where you definitely knew that there was something else going on in the world. It wasn't all just materialism. It's not all just physical. There's some spiritual aspect to it. And so I'm guessing those two things were kind of around for a while. You didn't have like a big, somebody sent you a link to Age of Deceit and you finally saw the world for what it was.
When I was about 19 and I was coming back to... I was starting to understand God, and I was starting to seek God, and I was starting to seek the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch Age of Deceit,
nice.
And yeah. I really like that documentary.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Connects a lot of dots.
Yeah. There you go, everybody.
But I also love everything you do.
If this is your first episode, my wildly popular co-host of Canary Cry Radio made a documentary called Age of Deceit. Go check it out. It's a hit.
But I love everything that you do, and I love that there is something out there that talks about, that people have an opportunity to tell their stories, and they're always such uplifting stories, and you get to see what other people's lives are like, and you always have... You're doing good work.
Well,
I really enjoy your stuff.
I appreciate that. And now that you mention it, actually, this is the kickoff of the Flood Gonza's Inbox with How Great Basil Is campaign. We're just going to... And everybody, now, if you want to be on the show, you got to ask Gonz. And he's just going to be... just let him know how great I am. It's so funny. I get emails all the time of like... Hey, Basil, could you put me in touch with Gonz? I'm not his secretary. Or am I? Maybe I should be his secretary. Anyways, but enough about me. Okay, so So you did see Age of Deceit. Very good, very good. Now, are you one of those people who's more about the biblical prophecy and the supernatural aspects of the weirdness, or are the conspiracies making their way in as well?
I'd say kind of both.
Kind of both. Okay, totally
The
acceptable
biggest thing
answer.
for me, the biggest, like, what I tell people this, like, I think it's all so important, the prophecies and, just, how things in the world are playing out today. But I think it just goes back to the trust in God. And I feel like, from what I've read in the Bible, the people that were living through a lot of the things that were prophesized, like the crucifixion of Jesus and, all these other things, they didn't understand the prophecies until it was playing out in front of them.
Right.
So
right.
that's where I'm at. Like, I feel, Revelation is like, I have no idea what any of this is. It's like, I'm not going to understand it until I see it in front of me.
Yeah,
And
the Mike Heiser approach.
yeah. So what I try to do, and I tell a lot of people this right now where I am in my life, is I'm trying to just, I look at the scripture and I just think, okay, how can I apply this to myself right now? How can I use this to make me more like Jesus? How can I use this to make me a better person? And, that's where I'm at. I'm never going to be, one of these like big scholar guys that, they can dissect and come up with all these dates and, oh, this is going to happen in 2028. Like, I'm not like that.
Right.
But,
right.
But I can look at it and, okay, it says to respect your mother. It says to, respect your father, to be faithful to your spouse. It talks about the qualities of what makes a good woman and the things that we should and shouldn't do. And that's what I'm trying to focus on, because I feel like for me personally, I need to work out the smaller things within myself first. But don't get me wrong, I love hearing about, like all these amazing teachings on the prophecies.
Yeah.
And
But before you feel like you have to give pats on the back to all the big prophecy guys, I think what you said is perfect, and I think is a big part
Thank
of
you.
what I've tried to do in my life as well, which is, and I'm certainly not the only person to have come up with this, or even the first person to broadcast it. Really the point of an exploration of spirituality with Christ, and including the biblical prophecies and everything involved there, we got to ask what does that mean for us, our daily lives, and our relationship with our Creator? It's really the most important thing, and keeping that in mind is what is really what A, keeps us sane, and B, gives us that personal connection with the big plans going on in the world, and the biblical prophecy, because it was put there for each one of us, and it should affect some change in our life. A lot of times we sit around and we wait and we watch current events and we read sorry, a cat just clawed me. And we read the new, theories on the biblical prophecies and who is Gog and Magog and who's going to be the Antichrist and things like that, which is all very interesting and, has a big picture consequence. But when it comes down to each of us as an individual, which is how God sees us, I think it's really easy to get into the mode where the individual kind of gets lost in a lot of these big prophecies that we pay so much attention to. And, focusing back down on, remembering God sees us each as individual creations of His. And it's not just about a big picture, but how do we respond to these prophecies, and how do we read the Bible, not just the prophecies, but everything, and take something away from it that is, can contribute to our personal development and our relationship.
Yeah. Well, back to what you were saying about the prophecies.
Uh-huh.
I used to lose sleep at night because all these, prophetic interpretations,
Yep.
this is going to happen, people are going to be starving, we're going to run out of water, and all these. I used to lose sleep over it.
Yeah,
And
literally, right?
yeah, literally. And I had to come to a point where, back to the control and back to the trust thing, I figured, God, the God of the Bible, always provided for his people. So that's just what I'm trying to hold on to. If the grocery stores run out of food tomorrow, God will provide for me one way or another. I have a roof over my head today. I know when my next meal is going to be. He's providing for me now. He'll provide for me then if that happens.
Yeah.
And it just goes back to the trust. And
Amen, sister. Amen, sister. I bet you sleep a little better now too.
Sometimes.
It's surprising though. It's surprising that these things do affect us so much. We do tend to worry so much. And I don't think that God revealed any prophecies so we would stay up at night and worry about them and lose sleep and lose emotional stability and lose, our rational actions in the world, which a lot of times is what happened. And is what happens when people, do get a little bit too caught up or start focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah.
And, it's not what it's there for.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we have to re-examine our own relationships with these, I would say, A, these prophecies, and B, just our reaction to these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got it all figured out. Good job.
No. Oh, thank you. All right. Show's over.
Show's over. We figured it out, everybody.
Drop the mic.
All the problems are solved. No, but I think that is a very relatable experience that you had. So there you go, folks. You're not the only one who's lost sleep over all the fluoride in the water.
Oh my goodness. I used to nag my poor mother. We need to get water, Mom. We're going to run out of water. The electrical grid is going to get turned off and we're going to not have any water, Mom. The grocery stores are going to be empty. We got to get canned goods. And I would drive her crazy.
Wow. Yeah. So you were really on it.
Yeah. But what I've been getting into lately, which I feel like is like my own weird way of combating these things, is I've been trying to learn about natural edible plants.
Hey, there you go. There's some practical skills.
It's really interesting. You would be very surprised how many things are actually edible out in the wild, and
that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I do not have the confidence in my ability to do this yet, but I have been researching wild edible mushrooms, but I have not eaten any yet because I'm not. That is a risky chance to take.
That's a hard skill to learn by practice and error.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's good now because I'm sure, that makes another great point, which is, we have so many things to fear, but in this age of the internet, we can literally learn whatever we need to do to at least dampen that fear a little bit. Hey, you worried the grocery store is going to run out of food? There are just books that will tell you everything you can eat out in the wild. Just read them.
It's really interesting. Like, I know this is such an obvious thing to say, but I've said this before to people. God is so smart. There's no, I'm serious. I'm so serious.
Oh, I believe you.
There's this mushroom that I was reading about that grows on birch trees. It's called a shaga mushroom, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Mm-hmm. And this mushroom, from what I've heard and what I've researched online, is the highest concentrated antioxidant wildlife plant that you can find. Oh, wow. And the Native Americans would make tea out of it. Uh-huh. And cancer was almost non-existent in the populations that would use this mushroom.
Oh, wow.
And it's just, you can go out and look on birch trees and you'll find it. And it's just,
it's just there waiting for you.
I know. And it's crazy. There's so many lost things out there that's literally in your backyard, and
They don't want us to know.
I think that's what it is, because if
Yep.
they can control what, I hope we don't lose connection because we're talking about this stuff, but if it's like the power is in keeping us sick and keeping us dumb and keeping us quiet, and if they can control what we put in our bodies, they can control our health, and they can control our brain chemistry, and they can control everything. And it's just, go in your backyard and make a dandelion salad, and
Oh, dandelion salad. I had one of those once. It's the weirdest thing. It is so weird eating flowers. Have you eaten the flowers yet?
I haven't, but I am interested in trying it. I have a funny story about dandelion leaves.
Tell me a funny story.
This is not me personally, but there's somebody that I know, an older couple that meets with us for our little Bible studies and our fellowship services.
Mm-hmm.
And they're older. They're in their mid-60s, but they've been married since they were like 19. And they told me a story that when they first started dating, the husband was over at the wife's house. They were dating at the time, but he was over at her house, and her father made a salad with dandelion leaves, and he didn't know it was dandelion leaves.
Mm-hmm.
So him trying to be funny and make wisecracks, he was just like, "Hey, what are you feeding me, weeds?" And I guess the father was so offended by it. And
oh, no.
But I love that story. It's so funny.
Yes, I am feeding you weeds. You have a problem? Well, that's funny. That's good. That's good. So are you keeping an eye out for Nephilim walking around?
Not necessarily.
Is your Facebook as crazy as mine is? Man, I got some really crazy people on the Facebooks here.
Well, I mean, I do I do keep an eye out for like what's going on in the news that things that relate back to that. Like the Sophia robot. Have you heard about her? I'm sure you've talked about her, right?
Yeah,
you've talked to her.
Come on.
Yeah. There's so much weird stuff going on, and I was watching videos about that last night with my boyfriend, and we were just talking about how, these Nephilim spirits are, they're always looking for a vessel to inhabit, and, we're basically giving them those vessels, and just wondering what's going to happen in the next couple years.
Oh gosh, we need to all invest in EMP cannons is what we need to do. If somebody out there knows a good brand of EMP cannon, please send it. Basil.rosewater@gmail.com.
We're gonna get flagged.
Oh, trust me, you're already flagged.
I figured.
The second you emailed me and said, "Hey, I've got a plan to take down the system," they flagged you immediately.
Oh, man.
Well, tell me a little bit about, you've experienced depression on times before, and when you were younger, and if you're like anybody else, it still hangs around once in a while when things get especially squirrely, and you've experienced the supernatural. You've seen the dark things. You're aware of all the scariness. Are you intentional with your happiness routine?
Yeah, I have to be.
Yeah.
I remember you had Jen Doe on, and I actually contacted her after you guys aired that, because her and I had so much in common, especially when she said that depression is her default setting.
Right.
My default setting, as long as I can remember, has always been like a very melancholy feeling.
Yeah.
And I find that I just have to focus on God, and it's a choice to be happy. And I just need to constantly remind myself of that. And I feel like from what I've experienced, I've seen the different elements of what encompasses depression, how there's a physiological side to it. There's a health and diet side to it. There's a spiritual side to it. And then there's legitimate things that may be going on in your life at that time that could be causing you to feel really sad. And it's just recognizing where it's coming from. I was on medications for a very long time, from the age of 11 to about 22.
Oh, wow.
And I was dependent on these medications. If I were to forget a pill, I would have a meltdown of like epic proportions, just because I had no I did not have the coping skills to just cope with what I was feeling. And I was baptized when I was 22. I think I was 22. And it was right after I was baptized, right as I was coming up from the water, I heard God say to me, "You don't need to take those anymore. You are free."
Wow.
So the next day I stopped taking the pills.
Oh,
And I wish I could tell you it was like easy and it was a cakewalk, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
was gonna
had to.
say,
Yeah.
that's like what people call Christians dangerous for.
Yeah. And I had some crying spells, but I had to teach myself. I had to teach myself to cope. And from experiencing the depression and understanding the different elements that come into play with the depression, I've come at it from different angles. I've been delivered from the spiritual things that were causing the depression, and I stay alert and I stay vigilant when I sense a feeling of sadness that has no explanation, and I pray against it, or I have somebody else pray against it. And I've recently changed my diet, and I've noticed a big improvement in how I've been feeling.
Hey, there you
And
go.
yeah. I cut out refined sugars, and I've cut down my refined carbohydrate intake drastically. And I've been taking, lots of vitamin supplements, and I feel a lot better. I feel like I can think more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's just, there's things that happen that make you sad.
Yeah.
But that's a human part of being human. There's a book in the Bible called Lamentations that is about sadness, and it's part of being human. Jesus experienced emotions. We experience emotions.
Yeah.
They're not bad, they're not wrong, but they serve a purpose. And if you're experiencing them at an inappropriate time, then there's a problem, and you have to identify that problem.
But there are times when it's not inappropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Even, there's okay, so recently there was a person who I know, I gotta be careful. I'm not sure if they're gonna listen to this one or not, but they were experiencing particular feelings of betrayal. And it was from somebody that, they loved and cared for a very long time. And they had all these questions. They didn't want to feel negative about that person, and they didn't want to feel betrayed if it wasn't a real betrayal. They had their own reasons, but they were questioning those reasons. And they kind of were talking as if feeling betrayed was an unchristlike thing to do, because they were so close to the person. I'm like, look, Jesus himself felt betrayed by God. He yelled about it on the cross. He said, "Why have you, forsaken me?" And really realizing that was one of the big reasons Jesus even came as a person, is because he experienced all of those things. And I think a big part of it was to give permission to people who experience certain things. And so, anyways, that story just came to mind. I know that was a very vague and unexciting story, but that was it. But
no, I definitely agree with you.
Yeah. So, all right. So you are intentional You have to be intentional with as we all do, by the way. I think that's the point to make here.
Yeah.
Is that
I have to.
we all
Sorry, what?
Anyways, there you go. Yes, we all have to be intentional.
Yeah, definitely in keeping my thoughts in check.
Yeah.
And but
Keeping your thoughts in check. You mean you have control over your own thoughts?
I believe to an extent.
Yeah.
Because you can't always control the thoughts, but you can control where you let the thoughts lead you. Like I can, sometimes I get nervous about, I don't know. I can't even think of an example, but I'm like, when am I going to get my bachelor's degree? And I can get all like stressed out about it. And then I can think, no, it's, I don't have to go down a rabbit trail of fear and anxiety because of it.
And not only that, you can control your thoughts. You can intentionally think of the positives, which is a huge difference in how, it's harder for some people than it is for others. But, focusing on the promises and the positives is a huge way to keep all that in check as well.
Yeah, it's taking captive of your thoughts. And
there you go. You're a champion.
Yeah, I'm like Rocky of the positive thinking.
You are Rocky of the positive thinking. Well, did you have anything you wanted to bring up? I know I've been goading you here for a while, but a lot of people kind of have made lists in the past of the things they want to talk about. Do you have a list that we need to start checking things off of? What's been something really inspirational to you lately?
I'm sorry, I'm so bad at this.
You're great.
Something that has been really Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because you just sparked something in my head that I did want to talk about.
I'm pretty good.
You are amazing.
Thank you.
I told you I've been working with my mother.
Yes.
And she works at a day school for children between the ages of 3 and 22. They're all separate classrooms, and they have severe disabilities and medical needs. A lot of them have cerebral palsy. A lot of them have, we have a lot of kids with Down syndrome. We have a lot of kids with seizure disorders.
Oh, wow.
Most of them are tube fed. Most of them are quadriplegic in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And, like being there, I've been there since the summer, and, I grew up around it because my mom worked there for 30 years, but, like actually putting myself in that environment, as a person who has struggled with self-image and eating disorders and just body image in general, has completely turned that upside down.
Wow.
Because you go in there and you, like, as a woman, sometimes I think like, oh, I wish my legs didn't have cellulite. And then I go to work every day and I'm working with these children who probably really wish they just had legs that could walk.
Yeah.
And it's just, and that has been so hugely humbling for me and has made me respect my body a lot more and appreciate a lot of things that you normally take for granted.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really been great. It's very humbling, and I'm learning a lot just from being there and caring for these kids. And
that's amazing. I don't need to tell you this, but that's definitely one of the things that, people complain about the most these days is, their body isn't what they want it to be.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you've really had a lot of, you've had some experiences that have changed your perspective on that.
Yeah, a lot of things like that have been happening lately.
Well, that's awesome. That's good. I'm not going to take all the credit for it, but I'm glad that you're having those experiences. That must be an interesting job. I mean, you're helping people. That sounds awesome. You,
Yeah.
I mean, what's it like working there? It sounds like a pain in the butt, really, but it sounds like you got some awesome experiences. It
Well,
sounds like they're teaching you something over there.
yeah, it's really great, and I really like it. It's I'm a TA, I'm a teacher's assistant, so I work in a small classroom with we have less than 10 kids in the classroom, and we have another TA, and we have a teacher who runs the classroom, and we do a lot of the medical stuff, like as much of the medical stuff you can do without being a nurse. Like we get them in and out of their equipment. A lot of the kids who have issues standing, they have special equipment pieces that will allow them to stand so they can strengthen their legs. And there's other things similar to that we'll put them in and out of. And we do a lot of the self-care that most people would be able to do themselves. We help the children with, and we get to teach the kids, but it's all accommodated because a lot of them have developmental disabilities as well.
Yeah.
So it's really nice though. It's I was working in a school before, and I kind of liked it, but I wasn't crazy about it. And now that I'm at where I'm at, I'm really happy. I'm really content. And the teacher that I work with is actually a Christian, and I was working there with her over the summer as a temp job, and they didn't not have it in the budget to hire me full time. So they had to let me go for a while. And she told me that she prayed every single day that they would hire me back. And
That's awesome.
2 months later, they called me and they said, "We have an opening for you." And I got to be in her classroom. So it's really great. She's really, really inspiring woman. And it's nice to work with somebody who understands the big picture in life, even though we don't necessarily see eye to eye or share all the same understandings or beliefs about God and the Bible. We agree on the fundamental things, and we know who Jesus is, and we know who God is, and we know that the Bible's true, and we can bond on what we have in common, and it's really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
finding those similarities with brothers and sisters is a really important thing. There's enough separation going on these days. It's really nice when you can really focus on the things that you have in common. It's better for all your relationships, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any pets?
I have 4 cats.
4?
You haven't even heard the half of it yet. Yeah, we have 4 cats.
Does that mean there's 8? Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
We have 4.
Uh-huh.
And 2 of them are strays that just showed up at our house and never left, so we took them in. And we also rescued 4 kittens 3 months ago.
So there are 8 cats.
No, there would be 7 cats, because 4 and 3.
Oh, I thought you said 4. Okay.
No.
7 cats.
My mother's friend's mother-in-law had some kittens in her backyard, and I went and I picked them up. We rescued them, me and my mom, and then we kind of took shifts between me, my mother, my boyfriend's sister, and her significant other. We would take shifts taking care of the kittens because at the time they needed to be bottle fed, and we all worked. So we would just kind of figure it out. And
wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, like took a village to raise some kittens, but we did it. And and they're doing great. They all went off to good homes. And yeah, they're doing good. We have one of them at my boyfriend's house. He was actually the runt of the litter, and he was so dehydrated when we found him, we didn't think he was going to make it through the night.
Right.
But he ended up, my boyfriend's sister stayed up with him and bottle fed him throughout the night, and he made it, and he's doing really good, and he runs around, he's all rambunctious and cute. And
So what you're saying is you're a hero. You're a kitten hero.
I'm super kitten woman.
Yeah. Good job. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I have a rabbit that we also found just hopping around. Yeah. I was driving with my mother like a street away from where we live, and I saw a black rabbit, and I said, "Hey Mom, I've never seen a wild black rabbit before." And she said, "That's somebody's pet. That's not wild." So we got out of the car, and you see a wild rabbit and they dart away from you as fast as they can, and there's no way you're going to catch a wild rabbit.
Yeah, for sure.
This guy kind of just hopped away. So we got out of the car and we caught him, and we took him in, and we've just had him ever since. It was right around Easter time, so we're
guys
thinking
are
it was
animal superheroes. I swear, that's
yeah,
awesome.
we're always taking in.
It's like Snow White over there.
Yeah, because thankfully I grew up in a home where everyone's really big animal lovers, and we're always, if we see a stray, we're gonna do whatever we can to get that stray safe and warm and taken care of.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That must make you and I feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah, I really love animals a lot.
So it's just the bunnies and the cats? You don't got...
And we have a dog.
Okay, okay, keep it coming.
We have a dog. We adopted him. We call him Mickey, but his name that he was given as a puppy is McNuggets. And he's like a big he's half golden retriever and half Saint Bernard, so he's just like this big floppy boofy dog. He's like one of those dogs that just this big floppy lovable bear. He's so cute.
That's awesome. You guys are like the Doolittle family over there.
Pretty much. And then my boyfriend's family has a bunch of cats too, so it's like we're just like
cat heaven.
I know. We're like what's that show with all the brothers and all the sisters and the two parents get married, and
the Brady Bunch?
Yeah, we're like
You're
the Brady bunch of cats.
There's the show title. That's awesome. So you guys, they all get into hijinks, and they have to learn life lessons.
I guess so. Yeah, they're funny. They get into trouble, though.
That's awesome. Well, I'm curious. You said that you changed your diet recently, and it sounds a lot like what I've been doing recently. And it was helping out with your some issues there.
Yeah, it's the ketogenic eating I've been dabbling with.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay.
And it's actually really changed my relationship with food quite a bit.
Tell me about that. First, tell me about the ketogenic thing. I'm only vaguely have an idea what it is.
Well, ketogenic it's my understanding. I'm not familiar with paleo, but what I've heard is it's similar to paleo, but ketogenic eating is supposed to be closer to the way that we originally were supposed to be eating, without the refined sugars and the carbohydrates and or lower carbohydrates. And the point of it is it's supposed to balance your blood sugar, and it puts your body in a state where you're eating high fat, moderate protein, and very low carbohydrates, and it puts your body in a state where it's running off of fats and stored body fats versus the glucose in your liver, which is what causes like the sugar crashes. And I've been doing a lot of research on it, and it can help with mood stabilization, and it can help with thought clarity and a lot of things that I've had issues with in the past, just from changing your diet. And I've been doing it since the beginning of November. I fell off for about a week and a half because I had some eggnog at a holiday party, and the sugar
kind of random thing to fall off on.
And but I've lost 10 pounds doing it, and I feel better. I feel like my brain is sharper. I just I've had a lot of positive effects because of it. And you know, I know every once in a while I'm probably going to have a cupcake or something, but it's just I feel a lot better just more or less eating this way. Even if I'm not perfect to it to a T, just I feel really good.
That's awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing a similar thing. And I know some other people listening to this also are doing this. I'm on about day 25 of a whole 30, which sounds is very similar to what you're doing. I don't know what your deal with dairy is. But
yeah, dairy is I was doing keto originally for weight loss purposes, and I find that when I'm eating more dairy, I'm plateauing more.
Yeah.
But I haven't cut it out completely. I just have, a little bit of it daily versus, I was having a lot of it in the beginning of the
Oh my
ketogenic
gosh.
eating.
Yeah, so you can have dairy on keto.
You can.
Okay, interesting. Well, that sounds good. All I want is a big block of cheese right now.
It's amazing because you can eat steak, and you can eat cheese, and you can eat butter and olive oil. And I used to try and do Weight Watchers, and I basically was eating the same. Oh, it was awful.
The points?
Yeah, it was awful.
The points.
It was
I don't know
awful.
who made that up, but they're a masochist is what they are.
I agree
so
100%.
My family has gone on off and on of points, and family dinner time is basically an hour-long discussion of points. And it's just, I get it. We all got to have our own system, but I've never gone on points or Weight Watchers, but I'm pretty sure I could tell you the exact point count for anything from shrimp to asparagus fried in different
That's
things.
hilarious. My mother swears by it, but I can't.
Hey, it works.
I tried.
It works for somebody.
I would try and to keep, I don't even remember how many points I would get in a day, 23. And I would try, and by like 4 o'clock, I would be at 23 points. So I'm like, okay, I can't eat anything for the rest of the day.
Right.
And as somebody who struggled with a binge eating disorder for a very long period, that was really bad, because I would always end up overeating after that, and then I would just feel bad about myself. But the keto eating has 100% changed my relationship with food. I don't feel bad about eating. I don't feel like I'm always hungry.
Right.
Because it stabilizes me personally. It stabilizes my blood sugar, and it's really great.
Well, that's awesome, and it sounds like it's having a good impact both emotionally and physically with your chemicals and things like that, and also changing your relationship with food, which is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
We all have these weird abusive relationships with food in one way or another. Either we're starving ourselves, or not eating certain things, or feeling guilty about something, or feeling not guilty about something but not being satisfied. It's very strange. And
it was hell, going through all of that with the food.
Yeah.
Because if I was a drug addict, if I was addicted to whatever pill, I could, just stay away from that pill.
Yeah.
But you have to deal with food every single day, multiple times a day, and it's not something you can just cold turkey and say, okay, I'm never going to look at food again. It's literally what keeps you alive,
That's right. We need that. I think this is good wisdom. I think, usually these are kind of the fun questions at the end, but this is good wisdom. Your relationship with food is huge. We're talking about relationships with God and relationships with food here.
Yeah.
I'm writing that one down. I'm going to write a book about that. And food. Okay, good. Yeah. Well, anyways, this has been such a pleasure. I don't mean to start wrapping it up necessarily. If you've got something else weighing on your heart.
No, I'm pretty content.
Are you content? You feel good?
I feel it's all good in the hood. Even though I'm not in the hood, I'm in Massachusetts.
Your your podcast ketogenesis is kicking in?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I don't even know what ketogenesis means.
I don't either.
Well, Kaitlyn, this has been such a pleasure. I know, like a lot of people who try to get on this show, it's scheduling is always a challenge, but we made it happen. We fought the technical difficulties.
Yes, and the gremlins.
We overcame, and this has just been such a wonderful conversation. Just, I would say, nutritionally dense.
Yeah.
Would you call this a nutritionally dense conversation that we've had?
I would say so, but I think that's a good thing to talk about because everyone needs nutrition.
Everybody needs nutrition, and everybody needs to be dense, I guess.
You didn't ask me about juicing.
Oh, tell me about it. I thought I was just so... yes, tell me about juicing. You're like, I don't juice.
No, right? Yeah, no, sorry. Not my style.
I wanted to be asked. I don't have anything to say about it, but it's nice to be asked.
I was juicing for a long time.
Okay.
Carrots and greens and carrot, apple, and ginger is my favorite.
But sounds nice.
Since I started the keto, unfortunately, I cannot have a lot of sugary stuff.
Oh, they limit your fruit intake, huh?
Yeah, the fruit, that it's tough, but I'd like to get back to juicing eventually once I get to like a goal weight. I don't know if I want to do keto forever, but I want to get to a clean eating point.
Yeah,
kind of branch off the keto.
You can juice without doing fruit.
Yeah, I juiced some kale a few weeks back, and it was a literal white trash bag of kale, and it yielded like
an ounce,
eighth of a cup.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So you're gonna get back into the juicing thing. The carrots, apple, and what was it?
Ginger.
And ginger. Okay,
it's fantastic.
People are always asking me for juicing recipes, but I don't put that much thought into it. I just kind of throw everything in there. So I don't have good juicing recipes per se. But there you go, everybody. Apple, carrot, and ginger. Try it out. That's your official recipe to try out.
Yeah, carrot, apple, ginger, and what else was I doing? I like orange and ginger combinations. Those are good.
You like it spicy.
Yeah, spicy.
Yeah. Everybody go try your apple, carrot, and ginger juice and post the results on this feed, on this Facebook feed. I know you're wanting to post that juice picture somewhere. Just do it in a healthy manner. Put it on this post. Okay, well, good. Good. You're going to get back into the juicing. You're going to let me know when you do so I will know that my prayers have been answered and that God has spoken to you about his intentions for us to juice. Him and Jack LaLanne, his prophet of juicing. Are you too young to know who Jack LaLanne is?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All the old people are out there like, yeah, Jack LaLanne rules. And I count myself in that group. All right, Kaitlyn. I think we've hit all the topics now.
All right.
Thank you so much. This has been such a blessing. I'm glad we got you on, and I'm just so thankful to you and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ that we got to do this.
Amen.
Okay. Do you have any products you want to plug?
Yeah, I'm selling Avon. No, I'm just kidding.
This whole thing is just a big ad for your Avon website. Yeah, your Etsy shop. Okay. All right. Well, this has been such a pleasure. You have a wonderful night, and make sure to say hi to all the kitties for me.
I will. I will whisper in their ear. Basil said hello.
They'll know. They'll know. All right. Well, thank you so much. You have a good night, okay, Kaitlyn?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great night. Thank
You're
you for your time.
You betcha. Thank you. Well, there you go, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Kaitlyn, such a wonderful, what a wonderful, lovely person, and what a life experience she has had. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Hey, remember, you can go to facebook.com and like the page, The Joyspiracy Theory. And you can head over to Patreon, patreon.com/The Joyspiracy Theory. And there you feel called, you feel led by the Spirit. You can help support this show financially. And I would just very much appreciate that. That would be awesome. Also, not a lot of people doing this. You need to go do this. It's going to be awesome if you do. Head over to iTunes and leave a rating and a review for the show. This really helps all the iTunes robots tell other people about the show. And, that's good. We want to spread the word. But more importantly, this show spreads mainly by people like you, listeners like you, sharing the show with your friends, with your family, with your Facebook people. Really just anybody who can use a little bit more joy in their life. And honestly, that's pretty much all of us. Let's just admit it. Okay, so do that. I would really appreciate that. Head over to thejoyspiracytheory.com. On the right-hand side of the page, there's a leave a voicemail button, and you can leave me a voicemail. Works on your computer, works on your phone, works on your tablet, it works everywhere. It just works. It just works. Okay. And about that iTunes, you can leave me a rating and a review. That's 1 star. 1 star is like I went on a safari, and instead of taking pictures of the animals were taking pictures of me. Yeah, that's weird. 5 stars is like you went on a safari, and instead of taking pictures of the animals, you got to ride them around in sort of a magical safari wonderland where you made friends with all the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air, and became one with God's creation, kind of like going back to the garden. Yep, and a review is just explaining your star rating in those words specifically. Somebody please go use those words specifically, because that would be awesome. Okay, I think that's just about it, everybody. Make sure to tune in next time, but until you do, make sure the crabs don't pinch you on the nose. Why don't you just go pinch them back? Okay. I'm so dumb. Bye, guys.